Queen Zara looked at herself in the mirror. Her blue skin shined under the bright lights of her room. The golden crown on her head felt heavy today. It was her wedding day, and she was not happy about it. She was the ruler of the Velthari Empire. Her people controlled many planets across the galaxy. They were strong, smart, and feared by other alien races. But today, she had to marry a human from a small planet called Earth. The marriage was not about love. It was about politics and power. Her advisors told her that humans had things the Empire needed. They had metals, water, and other useful things. By marrying one of them, she could control their whole planet. Jake Collins waited in the palace garden. He was the human she would marry. He looked very ordinary to her. He was not tall like the warriors from other planets. He was not strong like the rock people from the mining worlds. He had brown hair and brown eyes. Nothing special about him at all. Jake worked as a cultural helper. He spent his days reading books in the palace library. Sometimes he walked in the gardens. He was quiet and polite. The queen's guards and servants thought he was boring. They called him the pet human when they thought no one could hear them. The wedding ceremony began at noon. Hundreds of important aliens came to watch. They wore their best clothes and brought expensive gifts, but many of them whispered to each other about how strange it was for such a powerful queen to marry such a weak creature. Jake walked into the great hall wearing simple human clothes. He did not have fancy armor like alien warriors. He did not have special technology like the science races. He just walked quietly to where the queen waited. When it was time to speak his wedding promises, Jake surprised everyone. He spoke in perfect Velthari language. His words were clear and his accent was almost perfect. Even the queen was surprised. Most aliens could not speak her language so well. "I promise to stand by your side," Jake said in her language. "I will respect your people and your ways. I will be honest with you always." The queen felt something strange when he spoke. His voice was calm and strong. His eyes looked directly at her without fear. Most people were afraid to look at her for too long. But Jake seemed comfortable. After the ceremony, there was a big party. Aliens from many different worlds came to congratulate them. But most of the congratulations were for the queen, not for Jake. They acted like Jake was just a prize. She had won. The ambassador from the Kethral Empire shook Jake's hand very hard. The Kethral were known for being incredibly strong. They liked to test other people by squeezing their hands until it hurt. But Jake did not pull his hand away or show any pain. He just smiled and squeezed back. The Kethral ambassador looked surprised. He tried to squeeze harder, but Jake's grip stayed firm. Finally, the ambassador let go and walked away, looking confused. A news reporter from the Galactic Network interviewed them. "Your Majesty," she said to the queen, "why did you choose to marry a human? They are such a new and primitive species." Before the queen could answer, Jake spoke. "We may be new to the galaxy," he said, "but we learn quickly. We believe in making friends, not enemies." The reporter looked at Jake like he was a talking pet that had said something amusing. "How cute," she said. "I am sure you will learn much from your new wife's people." Jake just smiled, but the queen noticed that his smile did not reach his eyes. That night, after all the guests had gone home, Jake and the queen walked through the palace gardens. The alien plants glowed softly in the darkness. Strange birds sang songs in the trees. "Are you happy?" the queen asked him. Jake thought for a moment. "I am where I need to be," he said. "That is not the same thing as being happy." "No," Jake agreed. It is not. But sometimes duty comes before happiness. The Queen found his answer interesting. Most people would have lied and said they were happy. Or they would have complained about their situation. But Jake just told the truth simply. "My advisors think you are weak," she told him. "What do you think?" Jake asked. The Queen looked at him carefully. In the soft light of the garden, she could see his face clearly. His eyes were calm, but alert. His body was relaxed, but ready. Something about him did not match what everyone else saw. "I think," she said slowly, "that you are not what you seem to be." Jake smiled again. This time the smile looked real. "Most people see what they expect to see," he said. "It makes life easier for everyone." They walked in silence for a while. The Queen's mind was full of questions, but she did not ask them. Not yet. She was patient. She had learned to wait and watch before making decisions. It was how she had become a strong ruler. When they reached her room, Jake stopped at the door. "Good night, Your Majesty," he said formally. "You can call me Zara," she said. "We are married now." "Good night, Zara," Jake said. His voice was gentle when he said her name. After he left, the Queen sat by her window and looked out at the stars. Her empire controlled many of those points of light. She had power that most beings could only dream of. But tonight, she felt like she had just met someone who was playing a game she did not understand. In his own room, Jake looked out at the same stars. He had work to do, but it could wait until tomorrow. Tonight, he would think about the woman. He had just married. She was smarter than his briefings had suggested. That could make his mission more complicated. But as he remembered the way she had looked at him in the garden, Jake realized that complicated might not be a bad thing. 3 months had passed since the wedding. Queen Zara was getting used to having Jake around the palace. He was quiet and polite, just like before. But she was starting to notice small things about him that did not make sense. The first strange thing happened during a dinner with important guests. The ambassador from the Kethral Empire was visiting again. He was a huge alien with 4 arms and skin like gray stone. His people were famous for being the strongest in the galaxy. During dinner, a servant carrying drinks tripped. A heavy crystal glass flew through the air toward the ambassador's head. The glass was moving very fast. Even the Kethral ambassador, with his quick reflexes, started to move too late. But Jake's hand shot out and caught the glass. He moved so fast that Zara almost missed it. The glass stopped just inches from the ambassador's face. Jake set it gently on the table and continued eating like nothing had happened. The Kethral ambassador stared at Jake with his 4 yellow eyes. "That was very fast, human," he said slowly. "Lucky reflex," Jake said with a small smile. "I used to play sports back on Earth." But Zara had seen the movement. It was not luck. It was perfect timing and incredible speed. She had never seen anyone move that fast, not even her best soldiers. The second strange thing happened a week later. Zara could not sleep, so she decided to walk around the palace. It was very early in the morning and most people were still sleeping. She walked past the training rooms where her guards worked out. Through a window, she saw light coming from one of the rooms. She looked inside and saw Jake exercising alone. He was lifting weights that even her strongest guards found difficult, but he was lifting them easily, like they were light toys. Jake was not breathing hard. He was not sweating much. He looked calm and comfortable. When he finished, he put the weights away carefully and cleaned the room. Then he left quietly. The next day, Zara checked the training logs. The weights Jake had been using were marked as heavy class, only for the strongest Velthari soldiers. But Jake was supposed to be a weak human diplomat. The third strange thing happened when the Thorian Collective sent a delegation to visit. The Thorians were small, pale aliens with big heads. They could read minds and sense emotions. Most people found them very unsettling to be around. The lead Thorian was named Zilmoth. He was old and powerful, able to see into almost anyone's thoughts. But when he met Jake, something odd happened. Zilmoth's large black eyes went wide with surprise. He stepped back quickly, like he had touched something hot. Later, when Zara was alone with Zilmoth, she asked him what was wrong. "Your human husband is very unusual," Zilmoth said in his whispering voice. "I cannot read his mind clearly. It is like trying to see through thick metal walls. I have never encountered anything like it." "What do you mean?" Zara asked. "Most minds are like open books to my people. Even strong minds have thoughts that leak out. But his mind is completely closed. It is not normal for any species, especially not humans." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard that humans were supposed to be mentally weak compared to other species. But Jake's mind was apparently stronger than anyone expected. That night, Zara decided to do some investigating. She used her royal access to look up Jake's records again. On paper, everything looked normal. He had been born on Earth, studied at their universities, and worked for their diplomatic service. But the more she looked, the more questions she had. His school records were perfect, too perfect. His test scores were exactly average in everything, not high enough to stand out, but not low enough to be suspicious. It looked like someone had carefully made him appear ordinary. His previous assignments were also suspicious. He had worked at embassies on 3 different planets before coming to her world. All 3 planets had experienced political changes right after he left. It could be coincidence, but Zara did not believe in coincidences. The next week, Zara tested Jake without him knowing. During a casual dinner conversation, she mentioned a recent battle between 2 alien fleets. She gave him the wrong details, on purpose to see if he would correct her. "It is too bad about the fight near the Zorian system," she said. "I heard the Helix fleet lost 5 ships. Jake nodded sadly. "Yes, it was a terrible loss. 7 ships, actually. The Helix commander made a tactical error by approaching from the day side of the planet. The Mordak forces were waiting in the shadow zone." Zara's blood went cold. The battle details Jake mentioned were classified. Only high-ranking military officials knew the real numbers and tactics. How could a simple human diplomat know such secrets? "Where did you hear those details?" she asked carefully. Jake looked up from his food, and for just a moment, she saw something sharp and alert in his eyes. Then he smiled his usual gentle smile. "I read about it in the military history archives. I find space battles fascinating from a strategic perspective." But Zara checked later. There were no public archives with those details. The real battle information was locked away in top-secret files. Jake should not have been able to access them. Over the next few weeks, Zara watched Jake more carefully. She noticed that he always seemed to know when people were approaching before they made any sound. He never looked surprised when someone entered a room unexpectedly. It was like he always knew who was around him. She also noticed that servants and guards acted differently around Jake than they did around other visiting diplomats. They were respectful, but there was something else in their behavior. It took her a while to realize what it was, They were careful around him, like they sensed something dangerous even if they could not explain it. One evening, Jake found her, reading in the library. "You have been watching me," he said quietly. Zara looked up from her book. "I watch everyone. It is part of being a ruler." "This is different," Jake said. He sat down across from her. "You are trying to figure something out." "Should I be?" Zara asked. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He looked tired, like he was carrying a heavy weight. "Everyone has secrets, Zara. Even you." "Yes," she agreed, "but most people's secrets do not involve impossible reflexes and classified military information." Jake smiled, but this time it looked sad. "What would you do if you learned that someone was not who they claimed to be?" "That would depend," Zara said slowly, "on who they really were and why they had lied. And if the truth was more dangerous than the lie..." Zara closed her book and looked directly into Jake's eyes. "Then I would want to know the truth even more." They sat in silence for a while, looking at each other. Zara felt like they were having two conversations. The one with words, and another, one underneath that, was much more important. Finally, Jake stood up. "Good night, Zara," he said. "Sleep well." After he left, Zara sat alone in the library for a long time. She was sure now that Jake was hiding something big, but she was also sure that he was not trying to hurt her or her people. Whatever his secret was, it was not about harming the Empire. The question was, what was he really doing here? And how dangerous would it be when the truth finally came out? Outside her window, the stars looked the same as always. But Zara felt like her world was about to change in ways she could not predict. She just hoped she would be ready when it happened. The celebration for Queen Zara's birthday was the biggest event of the year. Aliens from across the galaxy came to the palace. The great halls were filled with music, dancing, and expensive food. Everyone wore their finest clothes and brought precious gifts. But not everyone came to celebrate. Hidden among the guests was Vexkar, the deadliest assassin from the Scar hegemony. The Scar people hated the Velthari Empire and wanted to destroy it. They thought killing Queen Zara would throw the Empire into chaos. Vexkar was perfect for this job. He had special technology that made him nearly invisible. His body was covered in black scales that could bend light around him. His claws were sharp enough to cut through metal. He had killed many important people and never been caught. The assassin moved through the palace like a shadow. The guards could not see him. Their security systems could not detect him. He slipped past every defense, getting closer and closer to the Queen. Queen Zara was hosting a private dinner for her most important allies. The group included military leaders, trade ambassadors, and planetary governors. They sat around a long table in her personal dining room, talking about politics and making deals. Jake sat beside his wife, listening politely to the conversations. He looked relaxed and comfortable. To everyone else, he seemed like the same quiet human diplomat they had always known. "Excuse me," Jake said softly to Zara. "I need some fresh air. I will be right back." "Of course," Zara replied. She was used to Jake taking short breaks during long political meetings. He walked toward the balcony doors that led outside. Just as Jake stepped onto the balcony, Vexkar entered the dining room. The assassin's invisibility technology shut off, and he appeared in the middle of the room like a nightmare made real. He was 7 feet tall with black scales and glowing red eyes. His claws gleamed in the light. The dinner guests froze in terror. Even these powerful aliens had never seen anything so frightening up close. Vex-Kar's reputation was known throughout the galaxy. If he was here, someone was going to die. Queen Zara of the Velthari Empire, Vex-Kar said, in a voice like grinding metal. Your time has ended. Zara reached for the emergency weapon hidden under the table, but Vex-Kar moved faster than her enhanced reflexes could follow. His claw swept toward her throat, moving too quickly for anyone to stop. Then something impossible happened. Jake appeared behind Vex-Kar, not running from the balcony, just suddenly there, like he had teleported. The dinner guests did not even see him move. 1 second he was outside. The next second he was inside, standing calmly behind the deadliest assassin in the galaxy. Vex-Kar spun around, his red eyes wide with shock. Impossible, he hissed. I heard no footsteps. I sensed no movement. Hello, Jake said politely, like he was greeting an old friend. What happened next lasted less than 30 seconds, but everyone in the room would remember it for the rest of their lives. Vex-Kar attacked with all his deadly skills. His claws moved faster than lightning. His body twisted and struck like a giant snake. He used fighting techniques that had defeated the greatest warriors in the galaxy, but Jake was always one step ahead. He dodged every attack without seeming to try. When Vex-Kar's claw came toward his head, Jake simply was not there anymore. When the assassin tried to grab him, Jake slipped away like water. Then Jake started fighting back. His movements were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. He did not use weapons or technology. He used only his hands and feet, but they moved with impossible precision. Every strike hit exactly where he wanted it to hit. Every block stopped Vex-Kar's attacks perfectly. The assassin tried to use his invisibility again, but it did not help. Even when Vex-Kar could not be seen, Jake knew exactly where he was. He blocked invisible attacks and struck back at an enemy no one else could see. How? Vex-Kar gasped as Jake's hand hit a pressure point on his neck. How can you fight what you cannot see? I can hear your heartbeat, Jake said calmly. I can smell your breath. I can feel the air move when you strike. Sight is just one sense. The fight ended when Jake grabbed Vex-Kar's wrist and twisted it in a way that made the assassin's whole body go limp. It was a technique none of the watching aliens recognized. Vex-Kar collapsed to the floor, alive but completely unable to move. Jake pulled a thin cord from his pocket and quickly tied up the assassin. Then he checked Vex-Kar for hidden weapons and removed several deadly devices from his body. Finally, Jake looked around the room at the shocked faces staring at him. Is everyone all right? He asked, sounding genuinely concerned. The dinner guests could only stare. These were some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they had just watched a weak human defeat their greatest nightmare with his bare hands. How? Whispered General Korth, the Empire's top military commander. How did you do that? Jake straightened his clothes and smoothed down his hair. I had a good teacher, he said simply. Queen Zara stood up slowly. Her legs felt weak from shock. Jake, she said in a voice that shook slightly. What are you? Before Jake could answer, more guards rushed into the room. They had heard the commotion and come running. When they saw Vex-Kar tied up on the floor, they could not believe their eyes. Your Majesty, the guard captain said, we detected an intruder, but our systems lost track of him. How did you capture him? We did not capture him, Zara said, still staring at Jake. My husband did. The guards looked at Jake with new respect and confusion. The quiet human diplomat had done something their best warriors could not do. They had always thought of him as harmless, but now they were not so sure. Jake knelt down beside Vex-Kar, who was still conscious but unable to speak clearly. "Who sent you?" Jake asked in a voice that was still polite but somehow much more dangerous than before. Vex-Kar's eyes filled with hatred. "You are not what you seem," he gasped. "Neither are you," Jake replied. "You are supposed to be unstoppable. But here you are, stopped." Jake stood up and looked at Queen Zara. Her blue skin had gone pale, and she was looking at him like she was seeing him for the first time. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "Yes," Jake agreed. "We do." The guards took Vex-Kar away to a secure prison cell. The dinner guests left quickly, whispering among themselves about what they had witnessed. Soon, Jake and Zara were alone in the dining room. They stood in silence for a long moment. The room still smelled like fear and violence. The elegant dinner table was overturned, and there were claw marks in the expensive furniture. 30 seconds, Zara said finally. "You defeated the most dangerous assassin in the galaxy in 30 seconds. 28 seconds, actually, Jake said. But who is counting? Zara laughed, but it sounded more like crying. I have been married to you for months. I have watched you read books and tend gardens. I thought you were a harmless diplomat, but you just did something impossible. Jake looked tired again, like the weight he carried had gotten heavier. Zara, Do not lie to me anymore, she interrupted. I deserve the truth. All of it. Jake nodded slowly. You do, he said. But the truth is going to change everything between us. Are you sure you want to know? Queen Zara looked at the place where Vex-Kar had almost killed her. Then she looked at Jake, who had saved her life in a way that revealed he was someone completely different from who she thought he was. Yes, she said firmly. I want to know everything. Jake and Queen Zara went to her private rooms. She locked the door and activated the security shields that blocked all listening devices. Whatever Jake was about to tell her, she wanted to make sure no one else could hear it. They sat across from each other in comfortable chairs. But the comfort felt fake now. Everything between them felt different after what had happened with Vex-Kar. Start talking, Zara said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see the hurt in her eyes. Tell me who you really are. Jake was quiet for a long moment. He looked out the window at the stars, then back at his wife. My name really is Jake Collins, he said. But I am not a cultural diplomat. What are you then? I am part of Earth's Special Operations Division. We call it SOD. Most humans do not know we exist. Even most of Earth's government does not know about us. Zara felt her heart sink. You are a spy. Among other things, yes, Jake said honestly. But it is more complicated than that. Explain it to me. All of it. Jake took a deep breath. When Earth first made contact with the galactic community, we realized we had a big problem. Every other species had thousands of years to develop their technology and military power. We were new, weak, and small. If we appeared as a threat, we would be destroyed. So you pretended to be harmless. Not pretended. We really were harmless compared to empires like yours, but we had one advantage that no one expected. What advantage? Jake stood up and walked to the window. Human evolution was different from every other species in the galaxy. Most aliens developed one special ability. Your people became very strong and smart. The Thorians developed mental powers. The Kethral became incredibly tough. The Scar became perfect killers. And humans? Humans became adaptable. We did not get one special gift. We got the ability to exceed any limitation when we need to survive. We can push our bodies and minds beyond what should be possible. Zara remembered how fast Jake had moved when fighting Vexkar. That is how you defeated the assassin? Partly. But there is more to it than that. Jake turned back to face her. Earth spent 5 years studying every major species before we made official contact. We learned your languages, your cultures, your military tactics, your weaknesses. You were preparing for war. We were preparing to survive. There is a difference. Jake sat back down. We created the SOD to place operatives in key positions throughout galactic civilization. Our job was to gather information and make sure Earth would never be caught off guard. Zara felt sick. Your marriage to me was just part of your mission. At first, yes, Jake said quietly. I was sent here to watch the Velthari Empire and report back to Earth. The marriage was supposed to be a perfect cover. No one would suspect a weak human diplomat of being dangerous. But something changed. Jake looked directly into her eyes. You changed everything. I was supposed to stay detached and professional. But I started caring about you. Really caring. That was not part of the plan. How do I know you are telling the truth now? How do I know this is not just another lie? Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he stood up and walked to a wall panel. He pressed his hand against it and spoke a code phrase in a language Zara did not recognize. The panel opened, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside were weapons, communication, devices, and data storage units that looked far more advanced than anything Earth was supposed to have. Jake pulled out a small device and handed it to Zara. This contains all my real mission reports, he said. You can read them if you want. You will see how my feelings about you and this assignment changed over time. Zara took the device but did not activate it yet. What else have you been hiding? The marriage was not the only operation. Earth has people placed throughout the galaxy. Some are in militaries, some are in governments, some are in trade organizations. We have been watching and learning for years. How many? I cannot tell you exact numbers, but enough to make sure Earth survives if things go wrong. Zara stood up and paced around the room. Her mind was spinning with the implications. So Earth is not the weak, primitive planet everyone thinks it is. We are still small and new compared to the great empires, but we are not helpless, and we learn very quickly. What about your physical abilities? No normal human should be able to fight like you did tonight. Jake smiled sadly. That is where the adaptation comes in. SOD operatives go through training that pushes human potential to its absolute limits. We learn to use our bodies and minds in ways that most people cannot imagine, like moving faster than an assassin can see, like using every sense to track an enemy, like reading micro-expressions to predict attacks, like controlling our heartbeat and breathing to stay calm in any situation. Jake sat back down. We become the best version of what humans can be. Zara stopped pacing and looked at him. So everything about our marriage has been a lie. Not everything, Jake said firmly. My feelings for you are real. The way I care about your people and your empire is real. The fact that I saved your life tonight because I could not stand to lose you, that is real. But you are still a spy. You are still reporting to Earth about everything that happens here. Jake was quiet for a long moment. I stopped sending regular reports 2 months ago. What? I told my handlers that the situation here was stable and that I needed to maintain deep cover. But the truth is, I could not keep reporting on you like you were just a target. It felt like betrayal. Zara felt confused. Part of her was angry about the deception. Part of her was impressed by Earth's cleverness. And part of her was hurt that the man she had grown to love was not who she thought he was. "What happens now?" she asked. "That depends on you," Jake said. "You could expose me and Earth's deception. You could use this information to gain advantage over other species. You could have me arrested or killed. And if I do not, then we figure out how to move forward, together or separately. That choice is yours." Zara looked at the data device in her hand. It contained the truth about her husband and maybe about the future of galactic politics. "If I read these reports, will I hate you?" "You might," Jake said honestly. "The early reports are very cold and calculating. I wrote about you like you were a puzzle to solve, not a person to care about." "And the later reports?" "The later reports show a man falling in love with his target and not knowing what to do about it." Zara sat back down. The room felt different now. Everything felt different. "This morning I woke up married to a quiet diplomat from a harmless planet. Tonight I find out I am married to a super soldier spy from a species that has been secretly infiltrating galactic civilization. I know it is a lot to process. Jake, do you understand what this means? If Earth has been placing operatives throughout the galaxy, if humans are capable of the things you just showed me, then everything we thought we knew about your species is wrong." "Yes. Other species are going to find out eventually. When they do, there will be panic. Some will want to attack Earth before you become too powerful. Others will want to ally with you out of fear." Jake nodded. "We have known this day would come eventually. We have been preparing for it." "How?" "That is classified information I cannot share, even with you." Zara laughed bitterly. "Even now you are still keeping secrets. Some secrets protect people. If I told you everything, it could put both Earth and the Velthari Empire in danger." They sat in silence for a while. Zara thought about all the implications of what Jake had told her. Earth was not what it seemed. Her husband was not who she thought he was. And she was sitting at the center of a deception that could change the entire galaxy. "I need time to think," she said finally. "Of course. Take all the time you need." Jake stood up to leave, but Zara stopped him. "Jake, there is one more thing I need to know." "What?" "Despite everything you have told me, despite all the lies and deceptions, do you love me? Really love me?" Jake looked at her with eyes that were tired and sad and completely honest. "Zara, I love you more than my mission, more than my duty to Earth, and more than my own life. That is the most dangerous truth of all." After he left, Zara sat alone with the data device in her hands. Outside her window, the galaxy looked the same as always. But she knew that nothing would ever be the same again. News of Vexcar's capture spread quickly through the galaxy's intelligence networks. The story seemed impossible. A human diplomat had defeated the most feared assassin in known space, using only his bare hands. Alien governments began asking questions about Earth and humans that they had never asked before. The Scar hegemony was furious. Their perfect weapon had been humiliated by what they still believed was a primitive species. The Scar leaders decided, that both the Velthari Empire and Earth needed to be destroyed before this embarrassment spread further. Within days, Scar war fleets began moving toward Velthari space. The hegemony had one of the largest militaries in the galaxy. Their ships were fast, deadly, and commanded by generals who had never lost a major battle. Queen Zara received the intelligence reports in her war room. Jake stood beside her, along with her top military advisors. The mood was tense. Everyone knew that a war with the Scar hegemony would be costly, even if they won. "They are bringing 12 battle fleets," General Korth reported. "That is more firepower than they have used in any previous war. They mean to crush us completely." "What about Earth?" Zara asked, looking at Jake. "Will your people help us?" Jake was quiet for a moment. "That depends on what you decide to do with the information I gave you." Zara had spent 3 sleepless days reading Jake's mission reports and thinking about the choice she faced. She could expose Earth's deception and use it to her advantage, or she could trust the man she loved and forge a new kind of alliance. "I have made my decision," she announced to the room. "I am calling a special session of the Galactic Council. I want representatives from every major species to attend." Her advisors looked confused. "Your Majesty," one of them said, "we need to prepare for war, not hold political meetings." "Trust me," Zara said. "This meeting will change everything." 2 days later, the Great Hall of the Galactic Council was packed. Representatives from dozens of species had come to hear what Queen Zara had to say. Rumors had been flying about the Sate, failed assassination, and Earth's possible involvement. Zara stood at the main podium, wearing her royal crown and finest robes. Jake sat in the section reserved for diplomatic spouses, looking like the same quiet human everyone expected him to be. "Fellow members of the galactic community," Zara began, "we are here today because it is time to speak the truth about humanity and Earth." A murmur went through the crowd. This was not what anyone had expected. For too long, we have treated humans as a primitive, harmless species. We have seen them as useful for labor and resources, but not as equals in the galactic community. Today I tell you that we have been wrong. The Thorian representative stood up. "Your Majesty, what are you saying?" "I am saying that humans are far more capable than any of us realized. 3 days ago, my human husband defeated Vexkar in single combat. Not with technology or weapons, but with skills and abilities that surpass even our greatest warriors." The hall erupted in shocked conversations. The idea that a human could defeat Vexkar seemed impossible to most of the assembled aliens. The Kethral ambassador shouted over the noise. "Even if this is true, one exceptional human does not change the fact that their species is new and weak." Zara smiled. "That is where you are wrong. Jake, would you please join me?" Jake walked calmly to the podium. He looked completely comfortable, even though thousands of alien eyes were staring at him. "Tell them," Zara said. Jake stepped forward and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "My name is Jake Collins, and I am an operative of Earth's Special Operations Division. For the past 5 years, my people have been placing agents throughout galactic civilization. We have been watching, learning, and preparing." The hall fell completely silent. This was the last thing anyone had expected to hear. "We knew that if we appeared as a threat, we would be destroyed before we could defend ourselves. So we appeared weak while we grew strong. We studied your languages, your cultures, your military tactics. We learned everything we could about every species in the galaxy." The Scar representative, a massive alien with red scales, stood up angrily. "You dare to spy on us? You dare to deceive the entire galaxy?" "We dare to survive," Jake replied calmly. "Every species in this room has done whatever was necessary to protect their people. Humans are no different." Queen Zara stepped forward again. "Jake is not the only human operative. There are others, placed in positions throughout our governments, our militaries, our trade organizations. Earth has been preparing for this day for years." The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. Alien representatives began whispering frantically to their aides, wondering who among their own staff might be human spies. "But," Zara continued, "I am not here to expose Earth's deception as an act of betrayal. I am here to propose something different. I propose that we recognize humanity as what they truly are. A species capable of matching any of us in cunning, strength, and determination." She turned to Jake. "Today I am announcing a full military and technological alliance between the Velthari Empire and Earth, not as masters and servants, but as equals." The Scar representative roared with anger. "You side with these lying primitives against your own kind?" "I side with strength and intelligence wherever I find it," Zara replied firmly. "And I choose to build a future rather than cling to old prejudices." Within hours of the announcement, the Scar hegemony accelerated their attack. Their fleets dropped out of hyperspace near the Velthari capital world, expecting to find defenders who were unprepared and outnumbered. Instead, they found something that changed the course of galactic history. The Velthari fleet was waiting for them, but they were not alone. Alongside the elegant ships of the Empire were vessels that no one had seen before. Sleek, fast Earth ships that moved with impossible precision. The battle that followed lasted only 6 hours. The human ships used tactics that the Scar had never encountered. They coordinated with Velthari forces in ways that seemed telepathic. They struck at weak points that should have been impossible to find. When it was over, the mighty Scar hegemony had suffered their first major defeat in centuries. Half their fleet was destroyed, and the rest retreated in complete disorder. In the aftermath, as news of the victory spread throughout the galaxy, alien governments began sending urgent messages to Earth requesting meetings. The species that had ignored humanity for years suddenly wanted to establish trade agreements and defense pacts. Jake and Zara stood together on the palace balcony, watching the stars where the battle had taken place. The threat was over, but they both knew that everything had changed forever. "Do you regret it?" Jake asked. "Revealing the truth? Choosing to trust us?" Zara thought about the question. "I regret that it started with deception, but I do not regret where it led us." "And where is that?" "To a galaxy where humans are no longer underestimated. To an alliance between our peoples that is built on respect, instead of exploitation. To a future where strength comes in many forms." Jake smiled. "The galactic community will never be the same." "Good," Zara said firmly. "It needed to change." Over the following months, Earth revealed more of their true capabilities. Human diplomats, scientists, and military advisors came out of hiding in governments across the galaxy. The species that had seemed so primitive turned out to have been influencing galactic politics for years. Some alien civilizations were angry about the deception. Others were impressed by humanity's patience and planning. All of them were forced to acknowledge that they had seriously underestimated what humans could accomplish. Jake resigned from the SOD and became Earth's first official ambassador to the Velthari Empire. His marriage to Zara transformed from a cover story into the foundation of an alliance that would reshape the galaxy. On their first wedding anniversary, their real anniversary, not the political ceremony, Jake and Zara exchanged new vows. This time, There were no lies, no hidden agendas, no secret missions. "I promise to stand by your side," Jake said, just as he had a year before. "I will respect your people and your ways. I will be honest with you always." But this time, when he spoke the words, everyone knew exactly who he was and what those promises meant. Years later, when their children played in the palace gardens, Jake would tell them stories about the old days when humans were thought to be weak and harmless. The children would laugh at the idea, because in their world, humans and Velthari worked together as equals. And sometimes, late at night, Jake would look up at the stars and smile. Humanity had achieved the greatest victory of all. They had survived, grown strong, and earned their place among the stars, not through conquest or destruction, but through patience, intelligence, and the courage to reveal their true strength when the time was right. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again, and perhaps more importantly, humanity would never have to hide what they were capable of achieving.